Good day, everybody. It's Andrew here, and welcome back to my channel. We have another update on the next stimulus package, specifically the $1,400 stimulus check for seniors that Bernie Sanders is trying to include in this package. Now, Joe Manchin just said yes to getting the next stimulus package done on one condition. So this condition has to be met in order for him to say yes on getting this package done. So let's discuss the details in this video. But before we do, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. I also have a second channel, so do me a huge favor. Click on the link that's in the description of this video. Subscribe to my second channel. I'm going to be giving away a stimulus check on that channel just as a thank you for supporting my work. Okay, so Joe Manchin just held an interview this morning giving the details of what it's going to take for him to say yes to get this package done, and he solidified the fact that he does indeed want to get this stimulus package done because they asked him, are you even considering the possibility of this package completely falling apart? And he said no. So in this interview, we're going to cover a lot of topics. First of all, they're going to touch on the Virginia elections. Now, if you watched my videos yesterday, you know that everyone is talking about the fact that Democrats lost in an upset for the governor election in Virginia. So now we have moderates and progressives even more divided. Now, moderates are saying the reason Democrats lost that election in Virginia is because they're trying to spend too much money and people are worried that inflation is going to get even worse. Now, progressives are saying that it's the complete opposite. People in Virginia are upset that we still have not approved stimulus checks for seniors, we still have not expanded Social Security benefits, and we still have not approved the physical stimulus plan. Now, data would show that over 90% of the American people approve of these stimulus packages and want more stimulus checks done. So it seems like progressives are really in the right in this situation. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Democrats lost in Virginia because they have not approved another stimulus check? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, in any case, Joe Manchin went on to say a couple of things about Social Security and Medicare. He said that before we expand Social Security and expand Medicare, he first wants to address the solvency of these programs, meaning he wants to create more funding to make sure that the programs, how they currently are not going to run out of money, because Medicare is expected to run out by 2026 and Social Security is expected to run out eventually as well if they don't increase funding to Social Security benefits. So he is on board with expanding benefits, but first he wants to make sure that we can make them solvent. He was also asked about paid family leave because he did agree to a top-line framework of $1.75 trillion, but that didn't include paid family leave and it didn't include lowering prescription drug costs. Those are two things that Nancy Pelosi has recently added back into this package. So he has said that is a maybe. He hasn't completely agreed on that, but that's something Nancy Pelosi added back in, and it's one of the biggest question marks left as to whether or not the stimulus package will get done. He did agree that childcare, home health care for seniors, and free preschool should be included in this bill, and agreed that we have to take care of seniors, we have to take care of those who are disabled, and we have to take care of our children in this country. Now, a couple of things that are still a huge issue. He said that he is not interested in getting this package done quickly like Nancy Pelosi wants to do. Pelosi wants to get it done by the end of this week. He said we should slow down and see how things go with inflation. Now, this continues to be an issue because we've talked about it on this channel that December 3rd is kind of a strong deadline for this package because that is when the debt ceiling crisis is going to happen once again. And if Democrats don't get that done before then, Mitch McConnell is basically going to force their hand, and they're going to have to include the debt ceiling increase bill in the stimulus package. And for various reasons, that is going to make things even more difficult to get stimulus done. So Joe Manchin went on to say that bottom line here, he's willing to say yes on this stimulus package, and he's willing to say yes on approving stimulus for seniors if they can figure out the true cost of this stimulus package. Now, he argues that liberal Democrats are kind of manipulating the numbers to make it seem like this package is less expensive than it really is. But progressives are saying that's not true. And they're saying that when the CBO, which is the administration that is in charge of telling you exactly how much these packages will cost, when they tell you how much it's going to cost, it's going to be accurate to what the progressives are saying. But we won't hear from the CBO until probably next week. So That is what Joe Manchin is saying. He's willing to say yes on the stimulus package and saying yes on stimulus for seniors as long as it truly only ends up costing $1.75 trillion over the next 10 years. He argues that it's going to cost much more when you take into account that it's really going to be a 10-year program. Democrats are really budgeting 1.75 for like 3 years. It's kind of an argument on how you decide to move numbers around. These things get complicated, but in any case, let's take a look and see what Joe Manchin had to say. Again, as long as it truly only costs $1.75 trillion over the next 10 years, he is on board with saying yes to getting this stimulus done. But let's take a look for yourself and see exactly what Joe Manchin had to say, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below.
Democratic Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia. Senator, it's great to have you on.
Thanks for having me, Mika.
Let's get right to it. Many top Senate Democrats are warning the loss in the Virginia governor's race proves the party needs to pass President Biden's agenda as soon as possible. Take a listen to this.
Congressional Dems heard Terry McAuliffe. We had been able to deliver infrastructure and reconciliation in mid-October. He could have sold universal pre-K, affordable child care, infrastructure, creating jobs.
Terry McAuliffe has been saying for weeks that his fate was tied to the progress of negotiations here on Capitol Hill, and there ought to be a clear message to my party and all those who support it to get the job done.
Congress has to deliver. We need to get it done, and as one who will be running for re-election in 2022, I need results that I can show the American people.
Senator, are your colleagues wrong in their assessment?
No, we should have gotten something done, Mika. We had the USICA bill, which is a China compete bill. We passed with about 90 Democrats and Republicans from the Senate. It's been sitting in the House for quite some time. That's $250 billion, tremendous amount of research and technology to compete with China because we're standing still while China's moving forward. We have a $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill, which truly for 8 to 10 years will rebuild America. We've let that go on for 30 years and we haven't done a thing, Mika. I agree with my colleagues. We should have gotten those two done. They're both sitting over in the House. But to have these bills being held hostage when we have a much larger bill that we need to work on, we just need to work in good faith. So I don't know why we couldn't pass or why the House members couldn't pass the two bills they've been sitting on for quite some time. And then let's sit down and work through. Let's get a CBO score. I think what the election showed us, Mika, was basically people are concerned. They're concerned about inflation. They're concerned about the debt. No, we don't talk about it, but they are concerned. I can tell you back home in West Virginia, gas prices are enormous. People are having a hard time driving to work and paying $20 or $30 more to fill up. They're going to the grocery stores and getting 30% less. They're about ready to face a very bad winter. We're told at much higher prices. So yes, I think we should be upfront, honest, and transparent with American people and do what we can afford to do.
So you've just described the realities surrounding exactly why these bills need to get through. What is it? I've got a checklist here. I'll write it down. What is it going to take to get to yes?
Well, to get to yes is first to find out what the real cost is, what we're talking about. We're using 10 years of revenue to basically supply 1 or 2 or 5 or 6 years of services. And that's not the true cost. The true cost would be 10 years to 10 years. So if you have 10 years of revenue, then you would think that if we put a program in place, that program would last 10 years too. This all needs to come forward, and we need to have a CBO score. The Congressional Budget Office truly puts a score to this. But Mika, the only thing I would say is the rush to this, and I've said this long before, I truly believe that we need to slow down. I truly believe that we need to wait and see if inflation is transitory. See how much worse it may get. Hopefully it doesn't. People are saying both. So I'm willing to work through it. I've told my colleagues, they all know where I stand. I've been trying to be as transparent as humanly possible in the things that we all agree on. And when we have such a divided Congress in the House and the Senate, and I think the votes in Virginia and also in New Jersey showed how divided we are, Mika.
Okay, but you talk about cost, and I know there's different sets of time that could be debated, but you agreed to $1.75 trillion, yes?
Sure. 1.75. The president and I came to an agreement on 1.75. I was working on 1.5, as you know, and I felt very strongly about that. The president was working very hard, and we had good conversations, we had good dialogue, and we had good negotiations.
Okay.
That's what it's all about.
Okay, so what needs to be in there? What needs to be in there, or what needs to be out of there?
Well, let me tell you the things that we can agree on, that we have agreed on. Child care. We agreed on child care. We've agreed on pre-K 3 and 4. We agreed on in-home services. We agree on basically climate bill that basically uses technology, not just eliminating certain fuels, but technology to use them cleaner, so the world will use them cleaner, because the world is using more fossil than ever before. If the United States of America doesn't find a pathway forward and a breakthrough in technology, then the world will get much worse, because 90% of pollution will come from Asia, which is going to be really from China. China has 3,000 coal-fired plants. We have 500. And my environmental friends will make you believe that the 500, and they're the cleanest ones in the world, the 500 are polluting the whole world. They're just not being accurate.
So there are reports that the House is putting back in paid family leave. Is that a deal breaker for you?
Well, there's so many things that they're throwing back in because that's their constituent. I mean, they have a caucus over there, and they should basically work the bills as they see fit. I don't begrudge anybody for doing that, but they shouldn't begrudge me for saying this is not the right place for this piece of legislation. I believe in family leave. I believe people should have that opportunity. But I've seen states that have already done it in America. I've seen countries around the world that have already done it. Can't we find a better position for this and do this in a bipartisan and in a process that works? Because here's what we're talking. We're talking about unpaid family leave now. That's going to add an awful lot to the debt that we already have at $29 trillion. They talk about Medicare expansion. I would love to be able to expand Medicare if we had our financial house in order. But when you have a report from the CBO that you're going to be basically insolvent in Medicare by 2026, and you want me to add more on to it that'll make it insolvent quicker? I've got people in West Virginia, Mika, that's their lifeline. Their lifeline is Social Security and Medicare, and I'm doing everything I can in my power to protect it and get those on solid financial grounds so people can depend on it. Then we can expand.
Willie.
Good morning, Senator. It's Willie Geist. Want to drill down a little bit more on paid family leave. I'm doing well, thank you. Speaker Pelosi yesterday again said this is going to be in the bill. Paid family leave will be in the bill. The proposal we're hearing at NBC News is for 4 weeks. President Biden on the campaign trail in 2020 made this a central promise of his campaign. We're going to get paid family and medical leave. So can you explain what you mean when you talk about this? Are you saying that it's important, but it should be its own piece of legislation, or are you saying that you object to it altogether?
No, I do not object to it at all as far as the concept of paid family leave. People should be able to have family leave as they need it. But also we should be paying into it from, same as we do Social Security. It's employer-employee participation. I'm talking to my Republican colleagues and friends and my Democrats. We can work a piece of bill out in a regular process that doesn't put a burden on taxpayers, doesn't put a burden and also more debt. Because when you start the programs, you never stop them. You just don't. And we're trying to get something that's sustainable. Willie, let me tell you, anytime we do something through reconciliation, it's done only by one party. The Senate was not designed to work off of just partisan politics. The Senate was designed to work off of bipartisan politics. And when you do bipartisan, that's what's made us the most stable country in the world. We don't flip back and forth every time somebody changes power. But what happens now when you do reconciliation, the next time there's a power switch and Republicans would have control, they're going to switch back, the same as we're switching the tax code. There wasn't a Democrat. One thing we all agreed on, Willie, there wasn't a Democrat that voted in favor of the 2017 tax cuts, which we thought were weighted to the high-end earners. Let's fix that. We're talking about everything but how we really fix truly the tax code that gives and puts our country back on a trajectory that we can be responsible with our debt and manage our debt. That's all I've been saying.
As you know, many of your colleagues have said Joe Manchin holds all the cards here. Whatever he decides to do determines the fate of this package that could be defining for President Biden. So, Senator, do you see a possibility that this $1.75 trillion proposed package, the Build Back Better package, does not pass, that it goes away altogether?
I don't know. You don't want to look at anything. I've always tried to sit down and work out a compromise. That's my mode of operandum as far as a public servant. Look back at my time when I was in West Virginia in the House of Delegates, state senator, secretary of state, and also governor for 2 terms. I wanted people to come together, find a common solution, and move forward so we could all go out and speak about it. I've always said this, Willie, the best politics is good government. You do something that the people really need and the people really want, and they like you to do it together, it'll last. When you do it, we're trying to do and shove things down where there's so much disconcern on this, it makes it much more difficult to have any lasting legs to it. So, you know, it's just, this is all about the United States. It's not the divided states, and we seem to be pushing ourselves further and further apart. What is the rush? Basically, all the things, Willie, that we're talking about that's in the reconciliation bill that we really like to do, and a lot of things we really like, have pretty much been covered in the American Rescue Plan, and that's going to go on for 2022. So the urgency today to do something quickly before we know exactly what it costs, the ramifications it'll have, and what we can all afford. There's only 50 of us. We're in a divided. These big things that were done in Congresses before us were done with major majorities and whoever was in control. We don't have that now. In my state, I represent the constituents in my state the best I can. Right. And right now I'm doing the best I can by basically representing them and also looking at what's best for our country and what we can afford.